Hello, Internet, and welcome to the greatest rising podcast in football.
Yo, that's great.
I'm Carson, and I'm a Cardinals fan.
I'm Alex, and I'm a Bills fan, or something like that. I don't know.
I'm Ian, and I'm a Bears fan.
Ha! Sorry, that's like
What an L. We'll be getting into that later. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we will.
for today's show, we're going to open up with our reactions to this week. This will include our games and any other surprising games this week. And in case you haven't noticed, week 2 was kind of
A wild week.
bit of a wild
It was
week.
a wild
it's
week.
the
Yes.
definition of
That is so real. Okay, so
Yeah, so many games.
after that, we're going to get into our power rankings. And how we're doing this is each one of us made our own power rankings. I then took each of our picks and averaged them out. So we have a group power rankings. The interesting thing is because I did that, there are a lot of ties. So if there is a tie, we will discuss and vote which team gets the final spot. And then at the end, we will recap from bottom to top our power rankings. After
well, you know
that,
what's funny is that even with all the chaos this week, the Panthers still sucked.
Andy Dalton's
poverty.
back in the saddle. Andy
Dude.
Dalton's back in the saddle.
Got benched. He's a bigger bust than Marcus Russell right now.
This is insane.
Wow, that's a crazy take. That's the, I
Hot
think
takes,
it's the
hot takes.
hot take of the podcast.
No, there's actually like a thing where you compare the stats. Jamarcus Russell's were better, and he was just notoriously lazy. Bryce Young is trying and doing worse.
Okay, I have a lot
Panthers-
to say about this, but I'm gonna come back to it. Okay,
I saw something about Baker Mayfield just being a sober Johnny Manziel. So
Good huge. Good huge.
so once we
Yeah.
get through our power rankings, we'll kind of just talk about any other news or things we think you should look out for, whether that be fantasy players or just crazy things that we want to talk about. And then I think we're just going to see where the podcast goes from there. And yeah. All right, gentlemen, I guess let's get started. How was week 2 for everyone? Weeks 1 and 2. I mean,
Great.
I had a pretty good week.
Great.
Well, week 1 was, week 2,
Two.
man.
Week 1 was pretty fun.
Yeah, Alex really enjoyed Josh Allen reminding the world that he is an otherworldly being. Taking over a 17-3 lead that the Cardinals had on them. Josh Allen took that and threw it away. It was a very
the only thing the Bears offensive line managed to block in 2 weeks was my any hope of happiness.
Oh.
Yeah, we suck. This just in, the Bears offensive line is poverty. More poverty than America's lower class.
That
I mean,
offensive line is absolutely throwing their game. I don't think
that
they'll ever.
that was
offensive
actually
team
terrible. I
trying
was
to throw the ball.
watching a video today of literally just of about the Bears offensive line.
Yeah.
La-
Darnell Wright decided to stop doing his job. Kevin Jenkins just decided that he sucks at football. You know, Nate Davis is still injured. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a bum show, really. I mean, you know, it's like the World War II trenches if they were above ground instead of underground, doing absolutely nothing for anyone.
It is genuinely scary how good the Bears look on paper and how it is not coming together at all.
It's scary for everyone else in the NFL how well Caleb Williams did when he had more than 2 seconds in the pocket.
You're
I
not
mean,
wrong.
he started the game 7 for 7, which is it, and then he finished the first half 12 for 15, 80% completion percentage. That's the first time since Jim McMahon that a Bears quarterback has done that. So,
Historical numbers for Chicago considering they've never had a 4,000-yard passer.
wow, crazy.
This
Crazy
is
to bring
true.
up.
I did see that. That was speaking of
Yeah.
good quarterbacks in bad situations. Can we talk about Justin Fields literally dragging the Steelers to 2-0?
Justin Fields, I mean, I've been saying this forever now. Justin Fields is a great talent who was completely wasted by Chicago. And if he was given the tools that Caleb Williams currently has, I think he would have done more than succeed in Chicago. Except for that line. It's just gonna be the same story with Caleb Williams, really. I mean, we're seeing Caleb Williams go out there and get destroyed by this offensive line. That's the same thing that happened to Justin Fields. Justin Fields has started his career with so many injuries just because our offensive line couldn't block. And at the end of the day, if we don't learn to block for Williams, he's gonna suffer just the same fate. He's gonna get injured, and we're just gonna go down the drain.
I think the Bears would have been better off keeping Justin Fields, working on
I
O
think
line.
I think the Bears would have been better off drafting Patrick Mahomes over Mitchell Trubisky, but what do I know, right? What do I know?
Just drafted Patrick Mahomes.
I
Don't
mean,
forget though. Don't forget the real story here. The Bills gave the Chiefs the pick for Patrick Mahomes, and now they gave them the pick for Xavier Worthy. The
yeah,
Bills
thanks
just
for that,
ends up
by the way.
buying them.
Can we go back to talk about the Steelers and how TJ Watt sacked Bo Nix without touching him?
He said this
That
world.
was wild.
Knicks just
He-
fell. He just fell. He was
Hey,
scared. He played
I didn't
scared.
even like. put
to
the
be
Steelers down.
fair,
I didn't even put the Steelers down. I just had TJ Watt's aura at 10th.
to be fair, if TJ Watt were running at me, I think I would also just fall.
Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, the Steelers have two amazing players, both on opposite side of the ball. I mean, they got TJ Watt on defense, and they got Justin Fields on offense. I mean, what else can you really ask for?
Let's not forget their kicker. Winning games with field goals. Winning games with
You want to talk
field
about
goals.
winning games with field goals? Let's look at Washington for a second. They went 7 for 7 on field goal attempts and beat the Giants, who had 3 touchdowns, but went 0 for 3 on the extra point. 0 for 3. Graham Gano, 0 for 3 on extra points.
I was really disappointed that I was starting Graham.
Commanders, part of their issue with the Commanders is the fact that they should have had a couple touchdowns, but they just decided to run they would just keep handing it off once they got into the red zone.
Yeah,
When they
speaking
didn't
of
hand it off them,
Giants, you know
Jaden
what you mean.
Daniels is looking pretty good.
He looks
Jaden
good.
Daniels-
They're just not letting him do what he needs to do in the red zone, and that's why they had to kick so many field goals. But
Austin Eckler is kind of in that washed era of his career.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, he's just not doing a bunch
Yeah.
out there in Washington. It's week 2, but he's just not doing a lot. And
He's not.
talking about, Terry McLaurin, I haven't really seen much out of him like I expected, to be honest. I expected him and Jaden Daniels to have an instant connection, and it's just not happening so far.
what do you remember on fantasy?
I have him in many fantasy leagues, yes, but that's not the point. That's not the point here. Terry McLaurin is an amazing receiver who finally has a quarterback to his disposal, and they just haven't had that connection that I expected them to have to start off.
Before we go to the power rankings,
Well, hold
I wanna
on.
note that I'm 7-1 in my 4 leagues.
Okay.
in fantasy.
Well, you know what? We just beat the Rams by 31 points, so I don't care.
Yes. And then same blowout out there.
28.
That made me literally the happiest I've been as a Cardinals fan in like years.
One of the upsets of the week. Not one of the bigger ones, I think people going into that game is kind of like a 60-40 split. And at the end of the day, I mean, the Cardinals just blew them out of the water.
It
They blew 'em out of the
definitely.
Red Sea, you may say.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, I mean Marvin Harrison, 4 yards in game 1 and game
More
2.
Game a lot of receptions as he had yards. So that's a crazy turnaround right there.
Absolutely insane.
But
Broke
if you wanna
records that were
update the
previously
upset-
held by his dad.
Now, the upset of the week, though, has got to be New Orleans over Dallas.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
That has got to be the upset of the week.
Alvin
Oh, I will
Kamara had a
say,
career game.
the Falcons coming up with a close second. That was a big upset there as well. The final moments of that game, crazy. Yeah, they beat them last year. Yeah,
That is true, actually. Not that they last year.
but no,
I would
mean,
like
Derek Carr is having himself a season. I know we're 2 weeks in,
Oh.
but he is turning it around from his last 8 years of performance.
He's going back to. He's like,
He's
let's take a trip back to 2016.
he's just coming
He's
out of nowhere with
in
this
this
team right here. I mean,
being
and
come out
Alvin
of
Kamara-
nowhere.
I mean, we were just talking, 3 weeks ago about Alvin Kamara being washed. Like, who is Alvin Kamara? And he's coming out and he's playing his absolute heart out. out of nowhere.
He that was fun football. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of
Yeah.
the football games this week were quite painful to watch, but he is a fun receiver. Like
And we can't just talk about Kamara and Carr. I mean, that defense has been something special too so far. I mean, you're coming out there and you're shutting down a Cowboys offense, which granted isn't that hard to do. It's the Cowboys we're talking about. But I mean, at the same time, like, they came in, they've scored 90 points in 2 weeks. The last time they did that, they won the Super Bowl. So,
I see good things in the Saints' future.
I mean, if they can stay healthy and can stay consistent throughout it, I could see I could see a deep underdog playoff run.
I think we do have to talk about too Gardner Minshew. What do we think?
Yeah.
Minshew
So I
mania?
did not watch
It's
the game.
well, I didn't watch a ton of it, but
I just know that
it was
happened, and that's honestly impressive in and of itself.
Gardner Minshew taking Lamar Jackson and winning.
Yeah,
That
giving
is,
Devontae Adams what he's been hoping for his entire Raiders career,
I mean,
a
did you
win.
see that Michael Jackson
Holy
catch?
That did you see that Devontae Adams catch was insane on the
Yeah, the
sideline,
Michael
just
Jackson catch.
laying down. He was practically laying down.
Dude,
Yeah, no,
that
that
is
catch was
insane.
absolutely insane. The ability to stretch that far while keeping his feet in, like,
Yeah,
it wasn't even like it was like a close call type deal. He is out there and he's still fully aware
yeah.
of his
The
feet.
ability
He
to have that
completely threw
surge,
himself
that
out.
insane.
That
Something
was
not many
insane.
people can have.
That's that's a he's one of the few guys that can make that catch in that
One of the
position.
very few.
Very few, yeah.
All
Now,
right.
another game that we got to talk about is that the ending of that Falcons Atlanta that
Oh,
Philly game.
see, I'm not gonna lie. I turned that game off. I thought
Listen, I
the
mean,
Eagles won.
here's the gist of it. At the end of the game, Saquon dropped a wide open pass, just completely whiffed it, and then I mean, that ended up getting the Falcons the ball back. They drove down the field. Darius Slay got absolutely cooked, and Kirk Cousins delivered a beautiful ball to
Kirk
Greg
Cousins was
Newsome
a
in the
little
end zone for a
scary.
touchdown. Cousins had a bad start. He had a really, he's had a really bad two
Yeah.
games, to be honest, compared to what's expected of him, especially with Michael Penix Jr. sitting there on the sideline staring him down. I mean, probably the whole game.
That is an injury.
I mean, yeah.
Because he was not mobile at all. Still kind of
No.
struggling this week, but
But I
that
will say,
a little bit.
I mean, the Falcons having a viable quarterback has changed their team completely. I will say, I
It
mean,
really has.
Kyle Pitts had a touchdown. I mean, I didn't know that
Yeah.
was possible until last week.
You're
And
right.
I mean, for the most part, I mean, their offense has looked good and cohesive. Week one, it wasn't the absolute best, but I mean, I don't think anyone really played well in week one offensively. And I mean, they definitely stepped it up this week. I mean, they took down a good defense in the Eagles. So, I mean, they went into Philly and they took care of business.
Now I think it's a good time to review the comments from our last video. Oh wait.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think we should start
Bryce
doing that
Wilson
though.
8
I think we
says the
should start doing.
Cardinals are overrated. Listen, man, crazy
Listen,
take.
that is a wild take, okay? But we're gonna talk about that later. But I think we will start doing
Jordan
that.
Lover
If
52 said Clay Thompson went over 10 in an elimination game.
Never forget. Never forget. Never forget.
That is the only thing I never forget.
Never forget the time that Chris Paul shot the dagger to cut the lead to
dude,
40.
Chris Paul, people were making memes about that with the LA Cardinals game.
You're
Um,
right.
when Kyron Williams scored that touchdown, and that made me laugh so hard because that meme has haunted me forever. But oh, so good.
Oh, another fun fact. As we all know, the Cardinals scored 40 this week.
Yes,
Right?
40,
That's right. They scored 40.
41.
Perfect. Yes. The Cardinals came out and scored 40 this week. I don't know the last time they did that, but the last time the Bills did that was in December of 2023, whereas the last time the Bears did it was 2018 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where we scored 41-17.
So I
So that's
can't
just
answer that question. The
a
last
little
time the
fun fact.
Cardinals scored 40, the last time the Cardinals scored 40 plus was my favorite game the Cardinals have ever played against the New Orleans Saints, where Andy Dalton threw 2 picks in a row.
One of the most generational slow-mos of all time.
Oh, yes, and we're going to be rolling that
Truly
on
a
screen right
masterpiece.
about now. So you're just going to have to imagine it if you're listening. I'm sorry. That means you should go check out the YouTube right now.
Footballers Anonymous on YouTube.
Let's get into our power rankings. All right, so we're going to start at the bottom. And unanimously, for number 32, it is the Carolina Panthers.
You know, next.
What a team. What a team.
What?
Are they a team?
Let me tell you, that
I've been questioning the same thing.
game was genuinely painful to watch. And I
Very,
did tune
very,
into
very.
that. Was the first game I turned on because
That was
I
like
really
water.
I figured that if the Panthers do win a game, that should have been one, but no. The Chargers, they had an incredible performance, and it didn't help that
Hey,
the Panthers just suck.
Quinton Johnston, of all people, came out and scored 2 touchdowns. Another person, not only I think couldn't score, I didn't think he could catch a football, let alone catch a cold. And here he was with 2 touchdowns against the poverty Carolina Panthers.
You know you're bad when you're letting Quentin Johnston score 2 touchdowns and the Chargers not have to play a close game. They legitimately give a reason to consider relegation.
Yes, yeah. Not to mention, too, I saw something the other day that was like, man, if only they had a star running back receiver, or even a defensive player that can move the ball on the back end, what a world would that be? And I mean, look at the past, 5 years of their career, they gave away Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, and Brian Burns for basically nothing in return. I mean, you look at the DJ Moore trade that the Bears made, absolute fleece. They walked out of there with Bryce Young, or not Sam Darnold, Andy Dalton's backup. And we walked away with DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson, and Caleb Williams. I mean, what else can you really ask for out of that? You know what I mean?
So I do want to talk about Bryce Young for a little bit because I don't know how much you guys know about Bryce Young um, before the NFL, but what I can tell you is Bryce Young did not play I mean, obviously because he was drafted so high, but Bryce Young, he's not making the same mistakes he did in college. And I know that, yes, the NFL is a different arena, but I think this speaks a lot to the Panthers as a franchise. I mean, we see Baker Mayfield did not perform at all as a Panther. He is now being successful. I'm seeing
Baker
this as
Mayfield had
a
such a crazy run in his
I'm
career.
seeing
Such a
the
crazy run.
the Carolina Panthers as similar to the New York Jets as a place where quarterbacks go to die, and it is really hard to get out of there. I will say, I think benching him for Andy Dalton may have been the right call.
Oh, 100%.
I think he
100%.
is so in
He
his head,
needs a break. He
and
needs a break.
I don't blame him. I mean, he has no weapons. They have done absolutely nothing for him whatsoever. Um, and everyone hates him. Everyone, and it's terrible that happens. But I think he needs to be able to sit and watch. I was about to say a good quarterback, but a quarterback, that a veteran quarterback play the game. And while I don't see the Chargers leaving spot 32, maybe Andy Dalton will work up some magic in Carolina.
Maybe he'll revert back to his Bengals days. Who knows? I mean, who really knows?
Oh, who really knows? Or maybe he'll throw 2 picks against the Cardinals again. Just saying.
Hmm?
We do play
It's a
them.
possibility.
It is a
It's a
possibility.
perfect
It
rerun.
is. Let's go.
Speaking of which, too, Andy Dalton this season with the Panthers, he is going to be rematching the Bears, the Saints, and the Bengals. So he's going to have 3 revenge games as a starter. And the Cowboys, correct? He's going to have 4 revenge games as a starter for the Panthers.
Andy Dalton, who knows? I mean, like genuinely, I cannot say anything about Andy Dalton because so many other quarterbacks have surprised me already in these
Also,
2
his name
weeks.
I mean, I honestly can't name like anybody else on the Panthers roster, though.
No.
I mean, I know Bryce Young.
And I think
I
that
know
speaks to
he's
Bryce
open,
Young a little bit.
and I know Xavier Leggett. That's it.
JC Horn.
I don't know anyone else. I didn't even know he
Yeah.
was a Panther. I did not know he was a Panther.
Was a Panther?
I did not. The Panthers just have nobody to their name. I think this is the sad part, the most like notable game impacting player on the Panthers team is Sir Purr. He is the most game changing player on their team.
Sir Purr. Go Sir Purr.
Sir Purr. We
We
love
love you.
mascots here. We love mascots.
Hey, if any of you mascots want a guest appearance on the show, you hit us up, okay?
We're talking to you, Staley. Staley the Bear.
Big Red.
Speaking
Come
of
on.
the Bears, and speaking of organizations that quarterbacks go to die,
Yeah, let's move on to our next two teams in the rankings. We have a tie for 30 and 31. So we'll discuss both of these teams, and then we'll decide which one of them is better. So for 30 and 31, we
Being a
have
loose word here.
the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants. So let's start with the
Listen.
Broncos.
Listen, Bo Nix. We need to talk about Bo Nix for a second. He came into preseason on fire.
Everyone
He came
on
into preseason
Zach Wilson looked
silencing
good
everyone.
in the preseason.
Bo Nix was going crazy. He was looking like the best rookie prospect out of this recent draft. And then the season has started, and he has played so bad. He has not done. He hasn't had horrible stat lines, but he has not done enough for his team. And it really makes you question whether or not Zach Wilson should have been the starter.
I mean,
funny.
I don't.
It's
If we're
It's a
going
true
with that
statement.
quarterback trend, then if Zach Wilson is going to blossom anywhere, it is going to be in Denver.
And that is a
it's not
sad.
necessarily it's not necessarily what the thing is. It's more so that a lot of quarterbacks tend to be more successful when they at least sit for a couple games, like throwing them right into the fire, especially on a team like Denver. Like I know Denver's not Carolina levels of bad, but they're
No,
mean,
you have a point.
but
I
Denver
think
lost a lot of pieces over the offseason. I mean,
Bo Nick
they-
is still like not. At, I mean, I don't think he's ready necessarily. I think they should have started Zach Wilson or whoever else for the first couple games and then let him kind of get into the
their other option was Jarrett Stidham. I think they made a good call there.
100%.
They made a good call leaving him off the field.
yeah, Zach Wilson can at least maybe beat the Chiefs until the refs get in the way like that. Chiefs.
We'll get to that. We will get to that.
All right,
We will
and
get to that.
the
And then the
Giants
Giants
are in not much
man,
of a better spot.
man. I mean,
Daniel Jones is looking.
he looked
This might be a
better.
hot take.
He looked better.
This might be a hot take, but I genuinely think Bryce Young is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones.
I mean,
Okay.
okay. Well, here's what I will say. Week 2, okay, the Giants' offense actually played coherently. They came out
This
and
is true.
scored 3 touchdowns. They scored 3 touchdowns. Now, Graham Gano, as we previously stated, he went 0 for 3 on extra points. 0 for
Yeah,
3.
and on an offense that struggles to get touchdowns like that, those extra points
Exactly. You
matter.
need those points. You need those. You need to come out and you need to get those points for your team, especially considering your team doesn't get those points often. Especially when on the other side of the ball. And also this too, on the other side of the ball, the Giants defense was getting consistent stops. They were getting
They were.
consistent stops. And
They were getting stops.
they were holding them to field goals consistently. Now at the end of the day, I mean they still came out and kicked 7, made 7, which at the end of the day was enough because of Graham Gano's 3 missed. But I mean, at the end of the day, the Giants
didn't.
really played coherently.
Yeah.
All right.
They went
No,
coherently.
Graham Gano won. So Graham Gano went out of the game, and their first extra point was attempted with the punter, which he missed, and then they tried two pointers because they didn't have the kicker.
Uh-oh.
I did not know that. Thank you
So-
for enlightening us.
No,
Yeah.
Graham Gano got like shot on the kickoff. So.
Okay, then I will excuse that, but still,
At the end of the day, still.
at the end of the day.
I mean, the Texans last year they sent out a running back to kick a field goal, and the Chiefs have sent out a safety to kick a field goal. So, and punters should know how to kick, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a little questionable.
Okay, so for my vote, I am voting the Giants above the Broncos
I agree. I think the
purely
Broncos are
because
a
of
worse
their
team than the
defense
Panthers.
and because they did show some promise. Are we all
Someone put,
are we all in
someone
agreement?
put the Broncos 29 or something, and they made it a tie. Because I think the Giants are better too. The Malik Neighbors connection with Daniel Williams looks really good.
It
I
does
know
look
Malik
good.
dropped that ball, and that hurts because he had a great game, and then he dropped it, and then they lost. Like not really because of that, but like that would have sealed it at that point, which is really unfortunate for him. But he
It
had
is.
10 receptions, 127 yards, and a touchdown. That's a really good game.
And there was
It
a
is.
I know Marvin Harrison had a better game, but both of them balled.
there was a
I
really
wasn't
nice
gonna
moment at the end
say
of that
that,
game
but I mean,
too.
yeah.
There was a really nice moment at the end of that game too between Neighbors and Daniels. I mean, they both had really big moments. I mean, Neighbors had his first 100-yard game. I mean, Daniels it was his first win as a Commander, right? I mean, they came out, former LSU teammates last year. Their connection was really something special. I mean, that was a disgusting duo to face, and they, traded their jerseys. It was a big moment for the both of them as former LSU teammates.
It was. Okay, so I have the Broncos at 31, the Giants at 30. If any of those teams go up, it will be the Giants. Um,
I don't know.
because
Andy Dalton Panthers. I can see them skyrocketing to 16 this
hey,
next week.
you never know.
Never know.
And
They could blow out the Raiders
If Andy
52-0.
Dalton is the key, then I take back everything I say about Bryce Young.
He's
He
a
really
very
just
small
is
time at
bad.
that point.
If moving on, in 29, we have the Tennessee Titans.
Ugh, ugh.
This is
What a
a
team.
hard team to watch.
What
Not
a
really
team.
for
I
me
mean,
though,
Actually,
because I hate DeAndre Hopkins.
it's a hard
Um,
team to watch as a fan, but it's a funny team to watch because of Will Levis.
listen,
yes,
I just want to
yes,
talk for a moment about week one. I mean, Will Levis, he just did not know how to properly handle the game in the final moments there. I mean, we were down by a mile.
that
We
pick
were
he
down
threw was
17. We
disgusting.
we were down 17 to nothing at one point in the game, and then we rallied and we came back to we scored 24 unanswered to win the game, consisting of a special teams blocked punt for a touchdown and then a pick six where Will Levis tried to underhand throw it and Stevenson just scoops up and Levis just he just sat there on his knees.
On third down and 6, here they come. Gordon's coming. Levis gets wrapped up, flings it ahead. It's picked off. Tyreek Stevenson will give the Bears the lead on another defensive play.
And then week two, that fumble that was something. He was
That was even worse than the last
That
one.
was
he was horizontal in the air, and it really makes you think back to, well, who's the guy on the Panthers who tried to throw it as he was landing on his back? I think it was 2 years ago. I can't remember who it was, but it was a just disgusting dumb
Wait, on the
play.
Panthers?
It was on the Panthers. It was 2 years ago. I believe they were playing the Falcons. He was barrel rolling through the air, and he tried to twist his whole body and throw it, and it resulted in a pick. I believe it was the one game where um, it was the Panthers and Falcons were having this very close game. There was a touchdown scored, helmet came off, flag was thrown. That crazy game from about 2 years ago.
okay.
I will say when it comes to the Texans or the Titans, they have a really bright spot with Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard has played amazing through his 2 weeks of being a Titan. He's finally been able to step into that starter role that he didn't get to have in Dallas, which he very much deserved, which we all know. And he's really blossomed, I will say. Like he's taken advantage of the spot and he has been doing really well for the Titans in their run game.
Yeah, I don't know why they just refused to have him as the starter until Zeke. Like, I know he was bouncing, but by the time Zeke was getting at the end of it, there it was kind of getting there. But they were so insistent on Zeke when Tony Pollard was such he was
He did all the work. I mean, he drove them down the field and then gave it to Zeke in the 5 yard, and he just took it. He just took it up the
Yeah.
middle. I mean, it was very very unfortunate to see.
Can't say the same about the rest of the offense necessarily.
I mean,
Yeah,
Hopkins hasn't really done much, but Ridley, I mean, Ridley seems to be doing somewhat decent. I mean, he seems to be stepping into that wide receiver 2 role pretty well for the most part.
he's doing a pretty good job.
I mean, they would have like a top 5 offense if this was like 2018, but
Also, their tight end, he's pretty good as well. I think he's like Okwankwu or something like that. I honestly can't remember his name, but he's a bright spot in that offense too.
Okay, up next we do have a tie. For 28-27. We have the Washington Commanders, living proof that field goals and a decent quarterback win games. And we have the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ooh, it's a low
So,
spot for that Jaguars team.
the Commanders, like we were saying earlier, I think Jaden Daniels looks pretty decent.
great.
Field goals. That was
Especially good kicker. Good kicker.
yeah, I mean, what more could you ask for?
Probably their best kicker since Morton Anderson. I don't know. Maybe it's time to discuss those two.
I don't know.
But I mean, at the end of the day, the Commanders, their offense isn't clicking as good as most people thought it would. I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, I thought that Daniels McLaurin connection would just snap like that, and so far it really hasn't taken a full effect. And with the Commanders losing Jahan Dotson right before the start of the season, which was a horrible move, by the way, on for both teams, just horrible move. I have him in many fantasy leagues as well. Horrible move. Um, I mean, they just don't really have as many weapons as we thought. And along with, Austin Eckler being kind of washed and Brian Robinson sitting on the bench, I mean, I just think their offense hasn't really been coherent at all. I think
I
they have
mean,
a left. They have a decently long way to go before their offense is really in full swing.
Brian Robinson should not be sitting on the bench.
Not at all.
no.
He's mild better than Austin Eckler. He had like 133 yards in this game.
He got shot last year.
Brian Robinson Jr.
Yeah,
He
he got
did?
shot. Yep,
I'm looking at his stats right now. What are you?
he got shot either last
I
year or
know,
the
I
offseason,
know
and he
he
came
got
back.
shot, but I know he,
I did not know that.
I know he got shot, but then he's. Was that a joke?
No,
Was that
I
a-
was mentioning that he got shot, and I
No,
was going to finish my thought. I'm
I
saying he
couldn't
got
tell with
shot,
that.
and he got shot last year, and he came back, and he looks just as good as he did before he got shot,
Oh yeah,
I
if
think
not better even.
no, definitely, yeah.
I think this team, a lot of the issues, and this was a issue that is quite familiar to me because of week one. A lot of their play calling is not hitting. I think they need to let Jaden Daniels
Oh yeah,
do
absolutely. That's
what
part of
he
the issue.
does instead of handing off to Austin Eckler, which again I understand because of week one, handing off to James Conner every single play. Only it's worse for them because Austin Eckler is kind of washed. And while I agree that the Terry McLaurin and Jane Daniels connection isn't really where it should be, I also think that they need to take more shots at the passing game uh, so that that can actually improve.
Another thing
Yeah,
too
no,
with them is their defense. I mean, I don't really know what to say about their defense. I don't really know anyone on their defense anymore. I mean, they lost two huge pieces to their line last year in Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Thankfully we got Montez Sweat. But
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, like I just don't really know much about their defense, and clearly they couldn't stop a Giants offense from scoring 3 touchdowns.
yeah, no, they looked bad versus the Bucks. I know the Bucks have a good offense, but they let up 40 points there. That's
Yeah.
going to be more of a liability than I think people realize. And they
I
need to
agree.
fix that play calling when they get into the red zone, or else they're just going to get washed half the games. They got to let Jaden Daniels actually do something instead of just giving it to Eckler. Because Eckler's not
He's
going
not.
to get you the touchdowns, as we saw 7 times.
And then this is a team that I know at least Ian and I have had very little confidence in, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh,
It's such a weird
it's such
situation
a
there.
disappointing team. I mean, just the past few years, just such a disappointing team. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, so overrated. I don't think he's ever hit that.
He literally said that they suck.
I don't think they hit that mark that they were supposed to.
Did anyone
or
else
he was
see
supposed
that?
to. I did not see that. No.
He said, and I quote, "Yeah, we just suck right now."
Yeah, I mean, he just hasn't hit that ceiling that they drafted him for.
He hasn't
They're
won a game since Thanksgiving last year.
they're on a crazy
That
losing
is,
streak right now, and they're going into Buffalo next week.
You know,
yeah,
we would be the team to lose that game.
you would,
I
but
mean,
I think even if you don't play well, home advantage will keep you above the Jags.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence is getting paid $50 million a year. I mean, that's just insane. He's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in NFL history. And
It also doesn't get better for them. They play the Texans the week after us.
no,
No.
I honestly, I could see them falling even farther on this list. I think the second the Commanders just click, they're falling below them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put the Commanders above the Jags.
100%. 100%.
All right, so we have Jaguars at 28, Commanders at 27. 26, we have the New England Patriots, who I think have surprised people.
They have. They definitely have. I mean, they came out week 1 and they beat Cincinnati in a very close game.
Yeah, I mean, I think and they held their own against the Seahawks, and whether that's
They did.
a
Again,
testament
another very
to the
good game.
Seahawks being not as good as we thought, or the Patriots being better than we thought, it could go either way.
I think the Patriots are just going to make it tough for any team they face.
I think they're going to be more like what we saw from the Cardinals last year, where they're still losing, but they're going to be competitive, really competitive.
Like the Lions a couple years before they actually got good. Like
Yep.
with like the
Exactly.
when really when they went like
The Lions
2015,
beat us when
was
we
that
were
ridiculous.
undefeated.
I mean, listen, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, he's come out swinging.
Yeah, I mean,
we might be looking at another Geno Smith right here.
100%. I mean, Patriots, more power to you. I can see you rising.
That's really all that's about all there is to talk about the Patriots, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't.
Jacoby Brissett. He's coming out. He's played. Ramondre Stevenson has done what he usually does and has been put the majority of the offense on his back.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah,
defensively,
definitely.
Gonzo's really the only one I could think of who's had any major impact. I mean, they came out and they lost Matthew Judon beginning of the season or beginning of the offseason. I mean, they're just a team that has no weapons.
Okay, 25. This is a team that I'm very sad is this low. We got the Indianapolis Colts. Okay.
I mean,
I think everyone is disappointed by how the Colts have been playing so far.
very much so. I mean, I came in expecting them to be a top 12 team to start off the season.
Easily.
Getting Anthony Richardson back. I mean, he was injured, what was it, week 2 of last year?
Yep.
And I mean, they still seemed like a decently coherent team. And having him back, I thought they would just blossom. I will say, Alec Pierce has been looking really well as a receiver, especially. I mean, him and Anthony Richards clearly have a nice connection going right there. So, other than that, Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he's completely fallen off the face of the earth. Completely.
Yeah.
Like, he went from the number 1 running back in the league to just another guy.
I will give him credit. He had 100 yards versus the Packers, but also the offense wasn't necessarily. I mean, they weren't losing the ball. It was a low score game as it is. He had 12 carries on that with 100.
I think their biggest problem in that game was the lack of use from Anthony Richardson in his running game. He didn't really step into a running role until the very end of the game there when it was just too late. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like if he started using his legs more, and I don't know if it's just not fitting the play calling or if it's just not happening in the moment or if he's scared to run after getting injured, but at the end of the day, he needs to utilize his legs more. Because I mean, in the final few drives of the game, when he used them, they were moving, and if he had just done it more, it would have.
The offensive opportunity there and letting him kind of go because he's getting he started to pick him apart a little bit on that second to last drive and even a little bit on the last. Not really because he almost threw a pick on the first play, but he got him in midfield.
He did. Yeah.
And he definitely got into a bit too late, but like towards the very end of the game, and it was just they were just too deep in the yeah they had too deep of a hill to climb at that point. So,
You got there. I don't see how hills are deep, but you got there.
Yeah, I mean, it's good enough. Bottom line, I don't have a ton to say about the Colts. I'm just kind of disappointed.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that's just the case with the Colts.
we don't even need to. We're not going to reference the before season predictions that we made together, where we had the Colts.
Oh my gosh. We
I think we
were
had the Colts at the #1 seed.
we had the Colts somehow got away with the #1 seed. We definitely didn't mean for it to happen that way, but well, we definitely did not like just say the Colts are gonna get the #1 seed.
I
We just
mean,
kind of picked games and it just happened.
that's
But
that's the point of way too early season predictions.
yeah,
You know, you just again, they're way too early.
We made some bold takes.
we did.
That definitely fell through. But it's
All right,
okay. The Bills are doing good.
it's
And we
true.
will get to that. We will get to that.
24, the Los Angeles Rams. Okay,
I mean,
week one,
listen,
I thought they
biggest
looked
thing,
pretty good.
They're so injured.
the biggest thing with them, Cooper Cup and Puka Nacua are both heavily injured. They are both battered. They will be out for a while, and I think that's just it for them on their offense. I don't see Stafford's not a mobile quarterback. He can't get out of the pocket. Like he's not going
He
to be able to
can't.
field and carry them down. Kyron Williams, he's a bright young star, but I don't think he is capable of carrying an entire offense on his back just yet. And other than that, I mean, who do they have?
So, week one, I thought I was a little scared at first because the Rams did open up looking pretty good. And I mean, in case like Cooper Cup, he usually misses a couple games because of injury just about every year. And I think that's why Rams fans and um and anyone else really watching loved watching Puka Nakua. I hate the Rams, but I even enjoyed watching Puka. Just he was a bright young receiver and he did not get injured every single season like Cooper Cup does. But losing Puka really started to hurt this team, and the Cardinals knew that, and that defense just they absolutely exploited it. Kyron Williams, who toppled over that defense last year, didn't perform super well, and Matthew Stafford just didn't have anyone to throw to. And I'm a little scared for that team. I don't know.
100%.
Yeah. They're just so injured on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense just looks
And yeah, I mean, with the defense too, I mean, they lost so many vital
You can
parts of that
excuse
Super
the
Bowl winning
offense.
defense. I mean, since that Super Bowl win, they've lost Aaron Darnold to retirement. Jalen Ramsey's gone off to the Dolphins. Wagner went back to the Seahawks. I mean,
Yeah,
they just don't have the pieces they used to. I mean, they're one of those. I mean, they went all in for that Super Bowl year, and now it's just coming back to bite them in the ass.
it's
Wagner is actually on the Commanders now, so if there's a player you can name on the Commanders defense.
hey, we got
Yeah,
one.
they obviously lost their pieces on that Rams defense, and like you can excuse the offense doing poorly in that game because they're so beat up, so injured. Stafford can't run the ball like that. It's just not the right way.
But that defense needs to clean up.
I know the Cardinals' offense is good, but they don't really have an excuse. They don't have much of an excuse for this. That was just abysmal. They're just letting Harrison and everyone else go crazy, and I
They did.
really picked him up first.
They did do a pretty good job adjusting. But that offense, the Arizona offense, adjusted in turn, and which is why Marvin Harrison was used so much more.
2 steps ahead. I'm always 2 steps
Stop.
ahead.
So that's why Kyler Murray was using Marvin Harrison so much in the beginning. He started using other targets.
I mean,
James
you
Conner got a
look
lot
at
of
his
action.
stat line. You look at Kyler Murray's stat line. I mean, he had 4 incompletions, and they were all targeted to Marvin Harrison. So, I mean, do you think about that? Marvin Harrison came out. He had what was it? He had 4 receptions off of 8 targets. You know, that I mean that needs to be cleaned up a little bit at the end of the day. But I mean, he's
It
still an
does.
amazing stat line, and it also shows that Murray's utilizing his clear number one weapon heavily. I mean, 8 targets compared to his 2 last week. I mean, that's just a huge
Yeah,
increase right there.
I'm gonna clear the air. It was 1 reception last week.
No, I said 2 targets.
Oh, yep.
I said 8 targets compared to 2
But
targets.
we're gonna talk more about that later. 23. We have the Raiders and Minshew Mania.
They beat the Ravens.
They
They
did
looked
beat the
good.
Ravens.
We did talk about them already, though. But
We
yeah.
did. I don't have a whole ton to say about the Raiders that we haven't
Me
already
neither.
said. I mean, Devontae Adams, he's looking really good with Gardner Minshew. They have something together. It was fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie. And I really like the Ravens, but it was
I
fun to
mean,
watch
it was
Gardner
just
Minshew
another
come
week.
back.
It was just another week where they came up short in the final play of the game. I mean, not just final, but the final drive. I mean, you look back at the Chiefs game, their play was decided, or their game was decided by Isaiah Likely in the end zone. It was actually the same thing almost this week. Lamar Jackson threw about I think it was a 15, 20-yard ball to Isaiah Likely, and he just didn't come down with it. But I mean, instead they went for a play that has probably a very low percentage rate of success. But I don't know. I mean, the Ravens have to find a way to turn this around somehow.
Yeah, I mean,
The Raiders, but yes.
No, the Ravens need to find a way to turn this around.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah.
yeah.
I'm saying, yeah, we're on the Ravens. Yeah. The Ravens.
All right, next up we have another tie, and this is an ugly one. We have the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets.
Bro,
Oh boy.
I mean,
Let's start
you
with the
know,
Browns.
I think it's pretty obvious who's better of the two, but
I
think the
agree.
two teams are honestly in conversation a lot with each other. You know, I feel like
oh, yeah.
I think these teams are always very similar in terms of
Hmm.
performance. I mean, you look at week 1, the Browns
Sorry.
got destroyed by the Cowboys. Destroyed. I mean,
I
He
mean,
was getting destroyed makes that look even worse.
well, I
Right?
mean,
yes,
you
it
look at
does.
the offense. Deshaun Watson just doesn't seem like a guy who wants to play football anymore.
He
He
also
seems like a guy
doesn't
just.
seem like a guy that knows how to touch the football, despite the fact he's touching people. But
I mean, and also Amari Cooper. What happened to Amari Cooper? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how his stat lines were exactly the first 2 weeks, but I mean, I feel like he didn't have to do that much. And then Miles Garrett. I mean, the Cowboys completely shut down Miles Garrett in that
Yep.
first week, and Denzel Ward as well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Browns just are another one of those teams where they're just not as coherent as people thought they would be.
say on the Miles Garrett thing, it's almost like Jerry. I mean, I think Jerry Judy's actually like the wide, like in terms of the first 2 weeks, like he's looking like the wide receiver one, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's not going to be the true wide receiver one.
No,
He's
it's
the
a
wide
part.
receiver one performance-wise, but Amari Cooper is going to be. I don't know. I feel like even after, being with the Browns for a few years and, I mean, being closer on that older side, I feel like Amari Cooper is still a very great receiver in many terms. I mean, last year he was doing really well with, who was it, Jacoby Brissett at quarterback? I mean, and then Deshaun came back and kind of ruined their whole career, but not career, but season, you know what I mean? And that's really all I gotta say about the Browns. I mean, then the Jets, I mean, the Jets aren't even looking that much better either. I mean, honestly, Aaron Rodgers, hmm,
I
he's not performing that well.
I can't figure out Aaron Rodgers.
I will say though, they do have a Braylon Allen is going to develop really well in this league, and I think he's going to be a very good player for years to come. I mean, he's 20 years old. He got a pass from he caught a touchdown from 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Like just some crazy things right there. I mean, you look at age in the league. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is 40. Mercedes Lewis, I mean, he's played in over 250 NFL games in his career.
Yeah.
Oh,
They still
I
have like
think
Paul and Garrett Wilson and all that too. Their offense, they
Runner on defense. I think
both sides
They have
want
some
to
good
achieve
name
it.
players.
It's just a matter of them actually getting it together. Like there's flashes here and there on both sides as well. They
again,
just gotta actually
it's
put
just
it together
another
with
team.
football.
It's just another team. I mean, I'm don't want to say this over and over, but it's just another team that just isn't as coherent as people thought it would be. And I think the second they figure that out and become more become more together as a unit, I think they'll just succeed much more. I mean, I think the Jets have. I think not only are currently better than the Browns, but I think they have a higher potential this season than the Browns do.
100%. I'm
Yeah.
surprised they're tied up.
For that reason, I'm putting the Jets above the Browns. But I mean, I don't know. It's the same story with both of these teams, and it's a little sad. But I also don't care much for both of these teams, so I'm up to number 20, we have the Miami Dolphins. They took a beating on Thursday Night
Man,
Football,
that
and
was
I'm realizing we didn't talk about Tua at all at the beginning. Tua with his
I mean,
fourth
that's
concussion.
in 2 years of 2 years.
That
I
is
mean, he just signed
insane.
he just signed a huge contract. 5 years, what was it, 256 million guaranteed.
This guy,
I mean, his career is in serious question right now. I know McDaniels was talking. I know Tua himself said he doesn't plan on retiring, but I mean, it's a genuine. His health is a genuine concern at this point, and it goes beyond
It is a genuine concern.
it goes way beyond football performance at this point. It just goes to his overall. It goes to his life, really. I mean, that's really what he needs to think about. He needs to think about his own life and his family and what he needs to be doing to keeping himself safe. I mean, they've done everything to help Tua stay healthy, and it's just none of it's paying off. None of it's paying off right now. And so I think he needs to, at the very least, sit back and take a break. I don't think he should come back at all for the rest of the season.
No. I mean, I think, first off, the way that concussion happened, terrible choice on Tua's part. Just running head
I
first into
yeah,
Damar Hamlin. And Damar Hamlin, of all people.
yeah, I saw that play developing, and I knew someone was gonna go down.
Yeah.
It could have been a double kill. At least it wasn't that, but that just the choice, even to just regardless of the Damar Hamlin like joke or whatever, just the choice to go head first. And I get that they don't obviously don't have the yellow line anymore. He didn't know where the first down was, but he seemed pretty far past the first down. And even then, it's like he could have taken a different route with trying to convert that.
I mean, it's just another case of quarterbacks needing to know how to slide. I mean,
Yeah,
you look at the preseason, the Bears, Caleb Williams, they were doing their sliding drills on a slip and slide after practice, and it's been paying
Yeah.
off. Caleb Williams has been doing great sliding, but I mean, it's just I don't know. I feel like quarterbacks. I mean, we're in a very mobile era of quarterbacks, and I think just a lot of them I think a lot of them just want to do too much at the end of the day. They want to be the guys that get out there and get fired up. I mean,
I mean,
it's
you
exhausting
see,
people.
there
I
are
mean, look at
lots of
Tua. If Tua slides there, it's a completely different story.
I mean, there are lots of like very mobile quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. I would argue they're two of the top 5 most mobile running quarterbacks out there easily. No matter how fast they're going, like they do slide, unless Josh Allen jumps over someone sometimes. But
See, Josh Allen doesn't always slide, but he's also like 6'6" and can afford to take hits because he plays football like that. Like,
yeah, no, Kyler
he's
Murray is a
not
slider, and a lot of that is because he used to be a
Even
baseball player. But
even the ones that take the hit, even the ones that go for the hits, I mean, they lower the shoulder and they lead with the shoulder. Tua out there, he was leading with his helmet. He
Yeah,
didn't he
you
didn't
can't
he
do
didn't
that.
drop his shoulder. He just
yeah,
went his head down straight into DeMar Hamlin's chest. I mean, it just wasn't smart on his part. I mean, it's probably I mean,
no,
at the end of the day, like just 4 concussions in 2 years, like
it's rough.
it's just not good. It's not good at
I
all.
also want to hit on the Dolphins real quick. I know they're like Tua went out. There are a lot more problems than just Tua going out.
Oh,
this season.
100%, and we saw that.
Regardless, regardless, Tua obviously threw a couple picks. He had a bad game in general. I
He
think
did
the
not just throw a
Bills
couple; he threw multiple.
I think the Bills kind of give him some issues in general, like like one of those teams. 11. Obviously he hasn't played all these, but he's like 1-6 versus the Bills now.
Yeah.
But also, Mike McDaniel's play calling was very questionable that game, and there was also a couple other issues, like the defense didn't look particularly amazing.
Well,
But the offense in particular, didn't move after the first one drive. Some because of picks. But Tyreek didn't get the ball. Jalen Waddle wasn't getting the ball. The play calling was not great. Obviously, Tua threw away the ball, threw picks away as well. But they look like they have more issues than just Tua's injury and whatnot.
I agree.
100%.
Okay.
We're just gonna have to see how Thompson fills that role as starting quarterback.
Guess we'll find out. All right, at number 19. I'm sorry, Ian. We do have the Chicago Bears at 19. Now
Listen,
this
I'll just
this
take the
is
lead on this one. I will just take the lead on this one. I mean, at the end of the day, our offensive line is atrociously bad. I mean, that game, really 90% of that game comes down to how bad our offensive line was playing. Williams had no chance. I mean, he was getting swarmed immediately. And even when he did a decent job a few times of keeping the play alive, but it just was just too much at the end of the day. And, on top of that, DeAndre Swift could not get anything going. The offense, he was hit immediately off the line. He could not run outside for anything. The only times he got anything more than 5 yards, it was up the middle. And honestly, I think Swift cannot. I don't think he knows how to keep a play alive at the end of the day. I think that overall, we aren't really utilizing the weapons in ways I hope we would. I mean, our running back room, we have obviously DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, but a running back I think is getting overlooked a lot is Khalil Herbert. I mean, he really stepped into his role the past 2 years. I mean, he took over for Montgomery when he got injured, and he played amazingly. And last year, as our running back one, I mean, he played great. He played great again. He had an amazing season. And then going into this year, obviously we got Roshan, we traded for Swift, or not. Well, whatever happens, we signed Swift, but then they just kind of cast him aside. I mean, Ian Homer is getting reps before he is, and I think that's a problem. Not Ian Homer, Travis Homer. I don't remember his name. Something Homer. But it's just, and okay, I will say though, one bright spot about that game was the fact that Velus Jones Jr. did not touch the field a single time. From what I know, he did not touch the field. He didn't touch the ball specifically, which he is a huge liability. I mean, we saw week one, he had that muffed kick against the Titans, which, I mean, it's just, the more I think about Velus Jones, just the more I think of his lowlights and not his highlights. I think his risk is way bigger than his reward. I just think he's not worth it at all. And, I mean, defense, our defense is a monster. I mean, it really puts the monsters of the Midway. Like, I don't, our defense played amazing. Our defense played their absolute
Thank you for
best.
the fantasy points.
They have allowed in 2 weeks of football, they have allowed the least second half points at 3. They've allowed 3 second half points in the past 2 weeks, and our offense just hasn't been able to put it together. I mean, either week, especially first week. I mean, Caleb Williams played horrible this week. He played much better this week, as I said earlier. He went 5 for 5 on the opening drive and finished the first half 12 for 15, and then it just fell apart. Again, the offensive line just horrid. Horrid. Eberflus had horrible challenges. Some horrible calls went the Texans' way this week. I mean,
Yeah, so
Roshan Johnson
most
got
penalties of all the games this season, I
nothing.
believe. It was
Roshan Johnson
21
was
penalties.
nothing happened, and I think that one Nico Collins catch was some BS. But I mean, at the end of the day, if our offensive line learns to block, I could see us exploding from 20 to 12. To be honest, I think just if our O line learns to block, we will explode up. And at the end of this, that's all we got to do. Just learn to block.
I think, well, first off, shout out to Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud for easily being the best diva quarterback matchup I was talking to you guys about it earlier. It was hilarious. We love to see it. Their interaction
I
after the
mean, I
game
got
was
sure.
peak. CJ Stroud with the come here when Caleb Williams tried to walk away. That was great.
Job out there, bro.
Yeah,
Hey,
keep going.
stop taking those hits.
Yeah, I know.
Hey,
Yeah.
learn from those mistakes, and everything that you got, bro, is in you already, bro. You're gonna be a hell of a player in this league.
Yep.
All right, boy.
Appreciate it.
For sure.
Oh, I love them.
Like the ultimate diva quarterback matchup, but just the Texans in general. They got Diggs over there now. They're
Oh
not-
yeah, we're gonna talk a lot more about that.
Then they got the
Speaking of which, Diggs has done nothing in 2 weeks. Diggs has done nothing, and he
No.
was strapped. He was strapped against our defense.
who,
Strapped him.
who punched the Bears player.
I don't know, something. But on offense, the only person on their team who had any impact was Nico Collins. Yes, you could
100%.
count CJ Stroud as the quarterback, but at the end of the day, the 80% of those Stroud highlights, like how when he was scrambling out of the pocket and all this, were going to Nico Collins. Like that was it. That was the only guy on their offense who was tearing us apart, and it was disgusting to watch. To be honest, absolutely disgusting. And that's all.
All
I got to say
right.
about it this week.
Number 18, Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens being 0-2, I'm just going to
Ladies and
say,
gentlemen.
is awful. They have an amazing team. They should have a top 5 team easily. But it comes down to what we were talking about earlier. They're just failing when it matters most.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pick is in. With the biggest choking team of the 2024 season thus far, the pick goes to the Baltimore Ravens because what in the actual heck is going on? You're losing to the Raiders with a 10-point lead. You're blowing the Chiefs game by not getting Isaiah Likely's toe in the end zone and choosing to wear black shoes. You're finding ways to lose, and you play the Cowboys, the Bills, and the Bengals the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they have an incredible offense, except Mark Andrews. I'm sorry you slipped week 1. That was rough. But they have an incredible offense, and they are performing, but not in the key moments of the game. And it
No,
is,
yeah.
and they have a rough schedule coming up. And I honestly, these next couple games are must wins for the Ravens.
We're not seeing the MVP candidate, Lamar Jackson, playing.
Candidate winner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
winner.
Yeah. And then I don't even know, man. Like, just they have Derrick Henry, and he's doing good rushing, but it's not enough on that side of the ball. The offense was just not like it. It was moving the ball. They were scoring points, but towards the end of the game, they were just not doing what they needed to do. Gardner Minshew outplayed Lamar quite a bit, which is kind of funny, but. And the
Yeah.
defense is, the defense is still good. The offense is still good. The team is still good. It's just that they're not finishing the game, and it's like the games, and this is a problem, especially with their schedule coming up. They're not going to be 0-5,
No,
but
but
looking at the next 3 games, they're all very losable games if they're going to continue to play like this. They need to figure it out, dude.
all right, number 17. This one is one that we were very divided about in our rankings. Number 17, we had the Seahawks. Ian and I both put the Seahawks pretty low. Alex, I believe you had them at 12.
I did.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. The Seahawks are basically the opposite of the Ravens. In my opinion, I don't think they're playing super good football, but they are they're getting the wins. And even if it's ugly, like they are doing it, and that's worth noting. They are 2-0. They're winning the NFC West right now, which is crazy that the Seahawks and the Cardinals are the top 2 teams in the NFC West. But I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I don't really have too much to say about the Seahawks as a whole. I haven't seen very much impressive play out of them. I just haven't seen anything too horrible. So at the end of the day, it was really just I mean, just one of the more middle ground teams. I mean, I've seen a
We
few good
we
plays
really
from
need to
DC,
see
Jack, JSN, but I just need to see more out of them.
them play. I don't want to say a real team, but that's the best way of putting it, is a real team. I mean, the Broncos and then the Patriots. They slid out of those games with wins, but I need to see them play a better team. And I don't really know what their schedule looks like coming up. But I
They
have a
play
feeling
the Dolphins next week with injured Tua, and then they play
that will
the
be an
Lions.
interesting game.
They will.
Okay.
They'll get that. I'll say this about the Seahawks and why I put them higher. First off, you could say the same thing with the Steelers, right? The second thing I'll say, I don't think they've looked as bad as anticipated. I think that Broncos game was not as close as it actually was. It was 26-13. Then the Broncos got a garbage time touchdown close to the end of the game with Bo Nix.
Okay.
The defense kind of tore him apart. Their defense actually in the first 2 weeks has looked good. And again, that is partially due to the teams.
Has.
But they do have a good defense on paper. Being 2-0, obviously
They're calling them the
even if they're
Legion of Boom too.
not quite, but I mean,
That's what
even
they're
if
calling
they
them.
escape-
That's what they're
Number
calling
even
them.
if they did escape the Patriots are a gritty team. They beat the Bengals. And I mean, Gino threw for 327 yards, 33-44. The offense did look good in that game. So each of their sides of the ball have had a pretty good game. And even the defense didn't play terrible versus the Patriots. I mean, it was like they still look like a good football team. Am I saying they're gonna be like top 10? No, but I think they deserve to at least be close to where the Chargers and the Steelers are. But that's kind of why I put them kind of where I put them.
The NFC West is going to be a very interesting division to watch. And number 16, we don't have an NFC West team. I was gonna make a segue, but it's the Cowboys. So, yeah, no segue. 16, we got the Dallas Cowboys, and week 1 and week 2 were like polar opposite performances from this team. They were astounding against the Browns, and it scared me a little bit. And then I had to remember that the Cowboys are always good week 1 for some reason. And then the Saints, yeah, and then the Saints came marching in, and
They did.
oh, I don't have a whole ton to say about this team. I think 16 is about right for them because I'm gonna be honest, I just don't really know. It's week 2.
Cowboys are just that team. The Cowboys are that team. I mean, every year. It's just every year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's knowing how their season always goes. It's also harder to put them higher up on any power rankings
it
list,
is.
especially because again they got blown out by the Saints, which is just insane to see.
It's crazy. All right. At 15, we have the Chargers. Okay? The Chargers, I did not expect to see them this high this early, and I would even make the argument if they keep performing like they are, that they'll be a lot higher. The Harbaugh magic is real. Yeah,
I mean, I don't really have much to say about the
I
Chargers.
don't
I mean,
have a
they
whole
came
ton.
out, they beat the Raiders, and then blew out a poverty Panthers team. I mean, I
An
think it boils
effective
down
offense
to
is an effective offense.
I think Herbert's healthiness is going to be a key factor to their team success, and overall, I mean, I think we're gonna just watch them develop as a team.
I said we don't know what's up with Herbert yet. He might be out a couple weeks. He might not. They're releasing an
Mhm.
injury report tomorrow, so we'll figure that out. That would personally adjust what I think of them power rankings and whatnot. This is a good spot for them.
All right, I like these next twos together. It's not a tie, but I'm going to announce them just because I think it's funny how they landed this way. So at 14, we have the Eagles, and at 13, we have the Falcons. Okay, this is beautiful how that landed. So the Eagles, I don't have a whole ton to say about the Eagles, but
I mean,
I mean,
ultimately, those placements just came down to how Monday Night Football went down. I mean,
yeah,
the Eagles just choked and, just in the final moments of the game. And for the most part, like I said, like we were saying earlier, I mean, the Falcons having an actual quarterback on their team is just a huge game changer for them. They have all the weapons they need. Now they just need to figure out how to fit them all together.
Absolutely. Actually, I think the Falcons are gonna end up. They might. I think they can definitely have potential to go up from here. I mean, that Eagles game was a good game. I don't know they play the Chiefs next week, so it's not necessarily likely they win. But Kirk's gonna keep getting better. I think part of his issue week one, besides the fact that the Steelers defense was that good, was also the fact that he was not the most mobile. He wasn't week two either. He's still kind of getting into the feel of things from his injury. I think Rodgers in a similar boat with that. Not as much, but Kirk
Yeah,
is definitely still trying to figure stuff out moving wise. But he looked really good at the end of that game. Also,
he
speaking of the
did.
end of that game, third down. First off, Sirianni run the ball, but also Saquon, he gets that ball and then that football goes
That was so loud.
right on the
That scared me.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, Saquon, I mean, he's doing a lot of good things for the Eagles. And so I won't hold this against him too much, but that was a key play. And that literally
that
turned the tide of the game.
I mean,
it was
that
in
was
the
that was the play that lost the game. That was the play that lost him the game, and then the Falcons came down on offense, and Darius Slay just got absolutely torched.
Yeah.
It's in a similar boat with the Malik Neighbors drop where he's been playing. Malik Neighbors had a great game versus the Commanders and then dropped that one, which would have
Hmm.
converted and won them the game probably. Similar thing with
Yeah. Okay.
Saquon, but yeah.
Number 12, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, I have a lot to
Welcome
say,
back to the NFL. Just
but
take this one
wow,
away. Take it
let
away.
us. That was Alex. I don't want to hear it. You had your win. Okay, the Arizona Cardinals. Week one, no one was really sure what this team was gonna do. Not at least Cardinals fans. I think most of the NFL just assumed that they would suck again. Except Tom Grossi. Shout out to Tom Grossi. He believes in us. Um, anyways, and I'm not gonna lie, week one, this offense wasn't clicking quite yet. For whatever reason, we decided to give James Conner, who is an incredible player, but we decided to hand off the ball almost every play, and a big part of that was because Highmark Stadium, super windy. Obviously, the Arizona Cardinals were not at all ready for that. It was a lot colder than they thought it would be, and the passing game just wasn't clicking. Except for Greg Dortch, who actually had a career game. But overall, the Cardinals still held their own, despite Josh Allen just being a god among men. But then, home opener, week 2, and Jonathan Gannon, who's clearly been plotting this for a long time, just absolutely steamrolled the injured Rams. 41 points, Kyler Murray's first perfect passer rating, and he is now the only quarterback this season so far to have 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions. He looked incredible. I mean, Marvin Harrison, there were a lot of doubts about him after not even being targeted more than twice. He did a lot of running though, week 1, so that was good. But Marvin Harrison, 2 touchdowns in the first 7 minutes of the game. Another incredible catch later on that easily saved the Cardinals from having to punt. And I mean, that defense, even, I guess no one listening knows, I hate Buda Baker with a passion. He is so overrated, and I can't stand him. But even Buda Baker looked incredible against the Rams. This defense was ready for this game. Kyron Williams, they knew that he was going to be carrying the ball a lot because of the injuries in the wide receiver room, and they held him back. Only 1 garbage time touchdown. Easy. I don't know. I think if the Lions game coming up is going to be really big for the Cardinals. They have it at home. Lions looked a little iffy, but still an amazing football team. But I think if they can somehow take that W, they are a serious wild card contender.
If the Cardinals defense can match the level of the past two defenses the Lions have played, I will believe that your team is very good if y'all pull out, especially if y'all pull the win out of the game. I trust your offense.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't
Alex saw that
change.
offense.
No, I'm still quite like your team specifically. I definitely trust the offense. I'm still definitely questioning the defense, especially mostly due to the fact that despite the fact they looked at the Rams, like they were really injured. I mean, obviously the offense torched that defense and they still did good versus the Bills. Defense didn't. I don't know. They did look good. Just I want to see what
They did.
actually Detroit.
They did. And you could definitely see Jonathan Gannon's defensive experience was really shining in week 2. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to next week for the Cardinals.
You know
It
who's missing Jonathan Gannon's defensive experience? The
oh
Eagles.
oh yeah, they are.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay are both terrible. Anyway, sorry, continue.
So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the Cardinals, but one game isn't enough to put them in the top 10. But they're definitely not going to stay at 12, whether they go up or down. We'll find out eventually.
If they win that game, they might be top 10, depending on what happens.
I think if they win that game, it's probably safe to say they'll be top 10. At number 11, I've been waiting to say this. At number 11, we have the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. I didn't think.
I have nothing to say about this team.
I don't have a whole ton to say about the Packers. I mean,
Other than Jordan Love is extremely overrated. He does not deserve the contract he got. I think it's hilarious that he got injured so fast. And Malik Willis had no business playing well against the Colts. That's all I got to say.
The last one definitely too. That was funny. Like Malik Willis really just won that game. I mean, obviously
yeah.
Richardson kind of threw it away too, but that's impressive.
I mean, the next couple teams, you're gonna see a lot of it was ugly, but they won, and this is definitely one of them. Without Jordan Love, they still played pretty well. I think honestly, I'm biased, but I put the Cardinals above the Packers here, but I can also understand. I don't have a whole ton to say about the Packers. I just need to see more of them.
I believe I put them 9, mostly due to the fact they won with their backup quarterback in week 1.
Yeah,
Good.
he's a very well-rounded team.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of weaknesses. They have a good they have a good spot for most of their team. I can't think of a direct weakness.
Definitely. All right, number 10, we have Justin Fields and the kicker. Pittsburgh was really, really rough.
I mean, I think so far Pittsburgh has looked pretty decent. Justin Fields has played very well in his first 2 games as a Steeler. I think Russell Wilson being injured is the best case scenario, and I think even when he's healthy, he shouldn't go into that starting role. I see no reason why Justin Fields should be benched at this current moment in time. I mean, him and Pickens have had a special connection so far. Their defense is still holding up. I mean, TJ Watt's really just doing all he can on that side of the ball. At the end of the day, I think the Steelers are just a pretty coherent team, and then they just have pure upside from here on out.
Oh yeah, I agree. I didn't even mention the most of the team. I mean, that's really just it's a very good team, but it's also I will say it's a boring team. But they win football their way, and they do a good job of doing it. And TJ Watt's aura on the defensive side of the ball is enough to sack a man. That says a lot.
Oh, 100%. We talked about it earlier. TJ Watt, he's an incredible player. We love Watts on the defense, always. Yeah, it's not fun football to watch, but Pittsburgh is getting it done, and we got to take note of that, which is why they're number 10. At number 9, this is an interesting one because I really don't know. We got the Bengals.
I
And
mean, the reason why they were higher up on the list for me is simply because of that Chiefs game. They played really well. At the end of the day, it came down to a judgment call. I mean, there's not much you can do in that scenario. I think the Patriots loss was disgusting. I mean, Jamar Chase has been, kind of iffy during this later stages of the offseason. Joe Burrow didn't really play as great as we expected him to. I mean, he has less weapons now. They lost Joe Mixon during the offseason, along with Boyd and, Higgins got injured. I just think so many factors are playing into it. But again, they played great against the Chiefs and it just came down to a judgment call.
Oh yeah, that's I don't think this would be top 10 with an 0-2, but I also think that they should be 1-1. Like, even
yeah,
regardless, I know the pass interference was a pass interference, but they missed the holding call that would have offset. They had some shenanigans going on in the just like I don't even know. It's not necessarily the fact that the pass interference happened. It's the fact they missed the holding, and this is conveniently something that happens with the Chiefs every week. It's interesting.
oh, we love it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, for our next ones, 7 and 8, we have a tie. We have 2 ties coming up, but I'm going to start with this one. 7 and 8, we have really interesting Lions and 49ers,
Oh,
both of
Really, I
which
will
have
say
taken losses that they probably shouldn't have.
heavy. And also the 49ers have been hit by injuries these first 2 weeks. Christian McCaffrey injured instantly. I mean, he didn't even get a chance. And I mean, just recently, Debo Samuel, he went down with an injury of his own, I believe in his calf. And Kittle also suffered a scare during his most recent game. I mean, just a heavy, heavy injury team right now. And I will say their backup running back really stepped in. He filled that McCaffrey gap. But I mean, it's just tough playing on the Lions side of things. Great game against the Rams, and then they just didn't pull through this week against the Bucks. Both playoff rematches from last year, and I don't know. I think we just all expected more from the Lions. I think we expected more out of Amon-Ra specifically. Jamison Williams has been doing good. He's back and he's been playing decent, but I think between the two, the Lions are still the better team. Or not still the better. I think they are the better team. And especially with the injuries the 49ers have sustained, I think the Lions will only go up, whereas the 49ers are going to be in this weird stage right now without their major weapons.
yeah, this is true. With the injuries in account, I think the Lions can be higher. Yeah, I will say Amon Ra is going to spend a lot of time writing down the names of all the receivers that have outplayed him these first 2 weeks. He needs to step up his game, and that passing attack in general needs to step up. I think
I
part of
agree.
the issue is they're trying to, particularly with the last game, they're trying to rely a lot on the passing game because I think they're almost like trying to see how far it can take them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In a Super Bowl situation, which is what they're going for, you'd think, like conference championship Super Bowl, you need a passing attack that can like sustain on its own. And they have that, but they also need it to be consistent and not like the running game has to do stuff too.
Well, another thing too is, I mean,
Right.
last year they were a very balanced team in terms of, passing and rushing. I think that's one of the bigger reasons why they went so far in the playoffs and almost beat the 49ers in the championship game.
No,
But I think these first 2 weeks it just hasn't been what it really should be. And I mean, week one, I mean, David Montgomery, he's a beast. I mean, he came in, he won the game in overtime, but
fine.
I mean, I think just between the passing game and the rushing game, especially with the backfield duo they have in Montgomery and Gibbs, I just think they just need to find a way. I just think they need to do what they did last year and just have that good balance and figure it all out.
David Montgomery would have won that overtime game if he had no offensive line in front of him. He was bullying them.
This is true.
I miss him as a Bear.
You know, you have DeAndre Swift. How do you feel about that?
I,
Oh,
anyway, next team.
Like,
Yeah, so I'm putting the Lions.
I'm putting the Lions above the 49ers.
I'm putting the Lions above the 49ers as well. I think it just depends on how quickly the 49ers can either recover or figure out what they're doing without all of these players because it is hurting them bad. At 6 and 5, we've entered the top 5, ladies and gentlemen. We have another tie between the Vikings and the Texans. Let me just say, before the season started, especially with McCarthy getting injured, I did not expect to be even considering the Vikings for top 5.
I don't think the Vikings should be this high at all. I think they should still be below the 49ers, in my personal opinion. But, I mean, Darnold is doing much better than expected. I will say Jay Jettis is still Jay Jettis, Addison is still Addison. But for the most part, I mean, they just don't have, I just don't think they have the pieces that they will need further down the line. And, I mean, at the end of the day, what was the other team was the Texans?
Yes, it was the Texans.
Yeah, the Texans are
The other
definitely
thing,
better than the
between the two, the Texans, but I will say this about the Texans. They nearly lost to the Bears,
They
and
did.
their offense did nothing in the second half. They're a great team, but again, the second half they couldn't get shit moving. And at the end of the day, I believe if our O line was capable of blocking, we would have pulled through with that game. So I don't know. I think both teams. I think the Texans should still be, up on this list. I think they're comfortable at 5, but I don't think the Vikings deserve to be at 6.
Well, see, I think it's worth. I agree that first off that the Texans are above the Vikings, but I do understand why the Vikings are so high, and I did put them higher than both of you. We had them at 5, 6, and 7. I was at 5, and um, you know, I know that the 49ers are injured, but I mean, Sam Darnold just came out of nowhere, and he's playing good football, and you can't deny that. Like he and Justin Jefferson have a connection, and yeah, that's
That
because he's
97
Justin Jefferson.
That's 97-yard touchdown was a
That was
very, very
incredible.
beautiful play.
It was amazing. I mean, I don't know. This is not even their star quarterback. I can't like whenever JJ McCarthy gets healthy, I really want to see what this team can do. Um,
That was the greatest play I've ever seen. It's Chris Collinsworth. But he would only say if that was Mahomes.
oh yeah, of course, 100%.
Anyway,
Um, so I put the Texans above the Vikings, but I'm very
if you wanna
excited
hit
about the
Texans
Vikings.
quick, they almost
Well, I
they
mean, you want to
teach
hit the Texans like their player hit our player?
Yeah, that was pretty scummy. The Diggs culture is
This is
spreading
a
over there.
penalty.
And the officials are trying to keep calm. Al Shire's right in the face of Darnell Wright of the Bears. And a whole bunch of Bears over there on their sideline.
I thought it was a fair hit when I first saw it. But I'm seeing by Caleb Williams' teammates.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's watch what happens in the scrum here. Al Shire gets up and a punch straight into the face of Rashawn Johnson, who was not in the game, was just standing on the sideline.
The other thing I want to say, they concern me ever so slightly because of the way they're winning. It's sloppy versus two teams that not bad teams. The Colts, you could say. The Colts lost.
This is not the same team we saw last year at all.
Barely beating the Colts is a little more concerning. And the Colts obviously played a better offensive game, but
Last year, the
I
Texans
think
were.
the Texans are keeping it very close versus teams that they should probably, based off the first 2 weeks, win by a little more than what they're winning, and it concerns me that when they face
I think
a team, what will
I
happen in this situation?
here's the thing with the Bears game. I mean, that boiled down to our offense. I don't think if the Texans should have won by any more. Our defense was playing great. And again, I just think at the end of the day, if our offense blocked, our offensive line blocked, we would have won that game by a substantial amount. I don't think their offense played good enough against our defense to justify them having more points against us. I mean, again, 3 points allowed in the second half, and their defense just wasn't. If it wasn't for their defensive line, they would not have been in that game. They were. That's just the way it is for me, from my perspective.
So I have a lot of problems here because I think the Texans last year, I think they played some really good football. They were exciting and they were super explosive. And this year, they barely lost anyone. And I mean, their wide receiver room is absolutely stacked. I think the Bears, before the season started, the Bears and Texans game, everyone thought would be an offensive explosion and it was going to be a shootout and an exciting game. And that's not at all what we got. And I think there's in big part due to one, the Bears defense is surprisingly good. And two, that
I don't think surprising is the good word.
okay, well, I don't know that
think
much about the Bears, so I expected it to be mid. I was more so looking at your offense. But I mean, to the Bears' credit, your defense has been playing absolutely incredibly. And I don't know. I don't think the Texans are hitting the way they should. I think Stephon Diggs has been a massive disappointment so far. Not that anyone was really
That's not
shocked by
before.
that.
No, right.
And I don't like the Texans anymore. I don't know. They're just not that fun underdog team. And this isn't even about power rankings. That's just my opinion of them as an organization. But I think the Diggs culture and CJ Stroud thinks he's all that and he is an amazing player. But I don't know. I just don't like the feel of it anymore.
I mean, considering that Chris Collinsworth could have in that game could have been like, now here's a guy that punches someone in the face and doesn't get called for a flag during that game. That's showing that the Diggs culture is definitely going around a little bit.
Yo, 100%. Okay, number 4.
Not the flag part, but the
Number
punch.
yeah. Number 4, another super exciting team, the Saints. The New Orleans Saints. And I genuinely think they
They
can
came out
easily
of
make top
nowhere.
3 if they keep performing the way they do. The Saints,
They play the Eagles next week. That's gonna be a real interesting one. If they blow out the Eagles, then we're talking
I
like
think they can if the Falcons beat them.
I mean, if I recall correctly, didn't the Saints beat the Eagles either last year or the year before?
yes.
And I think they
I
are.
know what game you're talking about. Yeah.
I believe they are and that was with. I can't remember who was quarterback then, but I mean they have a much better team going into this season, and I think they've been so much more coherent. And
Dalton.
I don't remember.
I don't think it was
But the
Dalton
point
this
is,
year.
Derek
Was it Jimmy G?
has found a way to just turn it
No.
around, and I think just overall their offense is just exploding, and I think it's going to be a really great game this upcoming week.
This is an exciting one. This is one I'm definitely going to be tuning into. It was Dalton? I didn't know he was with them that long. Okay. Well then, hey.
It was 2022. Yeah.
Okay. Then that's going to be an exciting one. I mean, honestly, if you really want to like know why everyone's so hyped about the Saints, go watch the highlight reels.
You're right.
Don't here before you watch the games themselves, like the full game highlights. Just go watch Alvin Kamara's highlights, and then go back and
Yeah.
watch the game
It
and
is
see the impact he has
incredible.
truly had on their offense.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have much more to say about the Saints other than that. I am so excited about this team.
Defense is also playing good too. Don't sleep on that.
Yeah. Yeah, no. All right, number 3. I don't think this comes as a surprise. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker baked again.
Baker Mayfield, man.
That was a very
it's
interesting
consistent.
game against the Lions because if you actually look at those stats, the Lions outplayed the Bucks in almost every stat. It was incredibly lopsided, but the Lions choked so hard when it mattered most. I know there was the whole issue with spiking the ball and the field goal and them losing points because they weren't able to take that. That was a big issue, but there were a lot of moments where the Lions had amazing drives and then could not, for the life of them, get points off of it. And Baker Mayfield, he could. I don't know. He survived Carolina, and he
I will
is
say another
incredible.
thing too. It's amazing to see Mike Evans still being Mike Evans. Mike Evans is just one of those guys. I mean, he's been coming in season in, season out, and he's been playing his heart out. I mean, he's still that guy on that team, and it's very impressive to see. And I think even on the other side of the field with Chris Godwin, he's still playing as he should. I mean, I think just overall, the guys that they have are just they've been very consistent the past few years, especially since that Super Bowl win.
Have that 1-2 punch there. Like it's been a while.
It's been a very long while, yeah.
It has. Okay, number 2.
One more thing.
Yes.
NFC South, the 3 teams in the NFC South look really good. If they can continue going up, like that's gonna be a competitive division with 3 teams.
Yeah, you remember like last season when that division was a joke?
You're right.
Look at them now.
Like all 3 of them, man. Like the 3 teams that are in that division, they're all playing really good football.
Yeah, the 3-team division. They are just incredible.
And then there's the Panthers.
What Panthers? They got relegated.
Yeah, what?
Anyway. Now,
Okay.
here's the thing before we get into the top 2.
Okay.
For me and my rankings, I have the Chiefs number 2 and the Bills number 1.
You
And
do.
here's why. I just wanted to justify that real quick before we get into the rest of it. The Kansas City Chiefs won a very close game against the Ravens that came down to a toe. Then they go to Bengals come to Arrowhead and they lose again by a judgment call. I mean, they both look great. Again, very close game. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Bills came out week 1, they were down to a team that I don't think a lot of people expected them to be down to, but they rallied from 17-3 and ended up winning that game. And then this past week, they destroyed a Dolphins team that I think a lot of people expected a lot more out of. So I think just based off the first 2 weeks' performances, just overall, players, just like the player performances. I mean, James Cook has been going absolutely insane. And
James Cook
also
cooked.
the Chiefs, they just lost Pacheco. Pacheco got injured for a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
So I think, in my personal opinion, between the 2 teams, the Bills are the better of the 2 as of right now.
Losing Pacheco is really big for the Chiefs. I mean, he's like the only part of that offense that I like really enjoy watching play. He's a great young running back. I think he's going to have an incredible career. Losing him is rough for the Chiefs. Unfortunately, Alex and I did not even put the Chiefs on our power rankings. We have the Bills at number 2 and the refs at number 1.
The Bills are the better team, but you can't beat the refs.
Because this goes even deeper than home field advantage. The NFL is on the side of the Chiefs, and the media is on the side of the Chiefs, and that's enough to put them on top for now. Because I mean, they keep getting away with wins that they should not be getting away with, but they are, and it goes deeper than things like the Steelers just dragging their teams to victory. This is the Chiefs. I mean, it's painful to watch. And I think the Bills, it's really early in the season to really say this is the best team in the NFL. But it is quite clear that the Chiefs are being made out to be the number 1 team in this league. Did I say the Bills? I meant the Chiefs. You know what I meant. Anyways. But I do think it is a super competitive race, and I think in 2 weeks I could very well have a completely different opinion. It's just really hard to make these decisions, and I mean, we've been going over this after 2 weeks of football.
Yeah, no, obviously none of this is gonna stick. It's
No, 100%. But for now,
never knows.
the Chiefs and the refs do take the number 1 spot. And Patrick Mahomes can continue to throw balls at the dirt and be a genius for it.
This is Mahomes throwing it in the dirt on purpose. So he sees it, and then he's got such great instincts. He tries The guy coming right there from the inside. You saw Wilson coming. He didn't see that initially, but he sees everything, and that's a winning play. No.
At 32, the Panthers. At 31, the Broncos. At 30, the Giants. At 29, the Titans. 28, the Jaguars. 27, the Commanders. 26, the Patriots. 25, the Colts. 24, the Rams. 23, the Raiders. 22, the Browns. 21, the Jets. 20, the Dolphins. 19, the Bears. 18, the Ravens. 17, the Seahawks. 16, the Cowboys. 15, the Chargers. 14, the Eagles. 13, the Falcons. 12, the Cardinals. 11, the Packers. 10, the Steelers. 9, the Bengals. 8, the 49ers. 7, the Lions. 6, the Vikings. 5, the Texans. 4, the Saints. 3, the Bucks. 2, the Bills. And 1, the Chiefs.
Except for in my
Yeah.
case, where the Bills are number 1.
Well,
No.
yes, but this is just... Sorry. And that one, the refs. My fault. And again, none of our rankings looked like this. We all had some very different opinions. But I mean, averaging them out, I think it's a pretty reasonable. I mean, obviously we have the disagreement between 1 and 2, and I do believe that the Bills could very well be 1. But it's the NFL doesn't think so, at least yet. I don't know. So, what are we thinking will be some things to look out for the next 2 weeks before we come back?
For games, first off.
I think the games to watch for this week. I mean, there's a couple teams you're just gonna have to be on the lookout for. I think Chicago is one of those teams. They have a big matchup against Indianapolis this week. Actually, two teams that we were just talking about having very key issues. And I think, both teams lost to the Texans. I think they're gonna come out. I think it's gonna be a decent game. But I think the Bears have a lot to prove in this game themselves. I think, as we were just stating, the Saints and Eagles game will be a very good game. I think, they both as well have stuff to prove. Eagles coming off of a very disappointing loss, and the Saints coming off 2 very, very amazing offensive weeks. I think, Detroit, Arizona is going to be a great game. Those are 2 teams to look out for, 2 teams that
Two teams
very
that both
close
have a lot
games.
to prove.
I think, and I mean, other than that, I think Baltimore and Dallas will be a good game. I think that's, again, 2 more teams have something to prove. I mean, those are really my games of the week right there.
I'd also highlight Texans, Vikings, and then I have a sneaking suspicion Commanders, Bengals could be good, but
You could be right. You could be.
Monday Night Football. So. Chiefs, Falcons as well, but yeah.
Yeah, Chiefs,
Oh,
Falcons.
Monday's a doubleheader. That's why.
Oh, is it?
I didn't realize.
It is indeed this
Yeah,
week.
it's Jags, Jags, Bills, and then Commanders, Bengals.
It's because of never mind. I was gonna say it's an international game, but it's not.
No, it's just they have the random doubleheaders. They actually have
Right.
a doubleheader week 4 as well, but
Oh.
I mean, yeah. I mean, those are our games of the week. Games to look out for. I think there are gonna be some key players to look out for on those teams. I mean, I think this is a very quarterback heavy week. I think a lot of teams you're gonna have to be looking at the quarterback. I think all eyes are still on Justin Fields as of right now. All eyes are still on Caleb Williams. All eyes are still on, Kirk Cousins on the Falcons even. I think a lot of quarterbacks have a lot to prove, and a lot of offensives have to be more coherent as a team to pull through in a lot of cases.
don't look now. But the Panthers might make a game within 20 this time.
Oh.
I would not put all my eggs in one basket with them.
Hey, man.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Almost everything else happened this week, so I mean,
That is true.
Listen,
I mean,
can't
this
say
has been an
20.
exciting
Don't think
season.
Cowboys make the Super Bowl, or people think the Panthers will win a game.
Panthers are going to turn around and go 15-2.
Andy Dalton is going to save them.
Red Rifle.
Red Rifle, baby.
Gotta the Raiders.
Yeah, it does. All right. Well, thank you for
And
joining us.
what-
Oh,
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
One more thing, because I just saw this right now. Antonio Pierce press conference. He said we've got to fix the Raiders, but before that, he said we're not worried about the Panthers. We've got to fix the Raiders. Like, bro just said, yeah, we're not worried about the Panthers. We just got to make sure we don't fall in the trap.
I respect that.
I don't think anyone's worried about the Panthers right now.
Nope.
Except for the
But
Giants.
but see, the thing is,
I don't think
because you're
anyone's
not worried about
the
them,
Panthers for a while.
because you're not worried about the
No.
Panthers, that's why you have to be worried about the Panthers.
No, that's not one of those cases this time around.
It's not that.
We
it's
will
too
see
early.
how this week goes with Andy Dolan, but as of right now, it's not one of those cases.
The only two teams that should be worried about the Panthers are the Broncos and the Giants, who both play them this year.
Oh, those are gonna be fun. Terrible football.
Bank Bowl.
Woo.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So those are our highlights of last week and the week before and the next 2 weeks. Shout out to anyone who's actually listening to us. You're pretty cool. If you disagree with things we've said, reach out, comment on our video. You can't really comment on a
feel free to leave
podcast, but
Feel
you
free
know,
to leave a bunch of comments in our videos, telling
if
us
you
your
guys
opinions. We're
if you
very
guys start
curious.
engaging, we will start a segment where we like interact and respond to your
100%.
thoughts. Yeah,
If you need to tell Ian his rankings were terrible, you can go ahead and do that.
it's probably gonna be me. My rankings were
me.
easily the most out there this week. So yeah,
We
stay
didn't start
tuned
Joe
either
Buck's
next week
podcast.
or the week after. Maybe we'll start an Insta or something if we're cool, and then we'll leave you updates, or maybe not. I don't really know. But thanks for joining us,
Other social media pages
and
will
we'll
be
see
in
you
the
all later.